From the sheer amount of anime I latch onto every season, I watch a lot of premieres all year long. Though a lot of people abide by the 3-episode rule, a premiere itself is a critical starting point among such a massive lineup of anime, in the sense that it's gotta stand out strongly within the lineup. Sometimes all it takes is an out-of-this-world piece of animation to get people talking, and in other cases, a narrative development so shocking, it leads people to take to the online world in order to convey their intense feelings. It's all about the hooks and tension, and every now and then you'll get one that reaches you in an emotionally profound manner. I'm not just talking about the type of stories that bear tragedy out the gate, but including the ones offering something that only anime could pull off. Said story blooming with its own culture, commentary, or psychology that pushes a main character forward to pursue a challenge that captivates the audience. Varying circumstances, but leading to some of the most memorable journeys in the medium, as you tend to get the full range of a character's humanity as they are tested time and time again. If I were to ask you all, when was the last time you watched a story that fits this mold, many of you would probably say Nippon Son Goku, and before that, Ikoku Nikki, maybe Orb, Monster, or March Comes In Like a Lion. What makes these types of stories so special is how deeply human they can feel. The beliefs, the consequences, the conviction, the loss, the tender emotions that make these characters feel so real resonate with us deeply, and in some cases, they can also make certain demographics of people feel seen. What ends up on display can be more enrapturing than any climatic shonen fight. It's a reminder of how flexible the storytelling in this medium can be, and this season, A Witch in Mongolia is pushing that motion very loudly as we are introduced to another point in history. I actually managed to go to Anime Expo for the first time this year, and I was able to see almost every world premiere that I set out for. Goodbye Lara, Edgerunners 2, and yes, even Kagurabachi's first episode. Yet Mongolia's was the only one that I watched and knew that the minute I got back home from my flight, I had to get back to work, as I couldn't stop thinking about the themes in motion, intertwined with the emotional whiplash that comes from the transition of episode 1 to episode 2's heartbreaking tragedy. One thing for certain is that this is going to be a massive learning experience for all of us, and that to me is what makes historical anime so special, on top of the fact that they can tell something a lot more personal in different eras. I understand that we're in Persia, and with that comes the opportunity for me to absolutely butcher the pronunciation of something, so if I do say anything wrong, feel free to correct me in the comments. After all, knowledge is power. It's also a quote that I always heard growing up, and of course I wouldn't know the value of it till I got much older, but in the context of this story, it's the basis of Satara's journey. Anime is such a great medium to connect us to different worlds, showing us different cultures and practices, moments in history that quite literally exist, if not mirror our own world, and the first episode does a great job of immersing us in both setting and time period. From the architecture in the alleyways, the sound of Azan resided in the background, and even the language barriers. You can see that this show wasn't merely just adapted, but there was a lot of research and effort put into ensuring everything is conveyed with respect to the land, the people who inhabit it, and the events that led to a record in history. Plus, at Anime Expo, they did admit that they put in a ton of work to ensure things come to life correctly, the type of effort that truly paves the conversation for a passion project. And through Satara, who is our main character, we would come to learn about this era through her perspective. A young girl sold into slavery, taken away from her home, and yet recognizes the desire for her freedom. With how she tried to escape her new buyers, she has some cleverness to her, but it's one layer that exists along so much more pain. The first impressionable part of her character was her declaration on refusing to become more valuable, rejecting her education as the more you can do, the more you are worth, and ultimately the more trouble you could get into. Take it from Mao Mao, who I'm sure has had more than enough due to her literacy. Regardless of landing in the residence of scholars, slavery is always a terrible thing, but in this time, it's normal, putting emotional chains on the heart and physical ones in place as it bounds one away from where they want to be, on top of stripping a person of their autonomy, turning people into property, and naturally, not even children are spared from this. You immediately are able to sympathize with her, as this route in life is the only thing she's ever known beyond her mother's death. But just like knowledge is power, there is also power in perspective. This era does have their wise men, those who seek the truth and pursue knowledge around the world, and who better to teach Satara the value of knowledge than Muhammad. Rather than scorning Satara for her comment, he opts to show her what knowledge can do for her, given regardless of her position, it's every Muslim's duty to seek it out. The experiment he conducts to get that point across is so simple, but the meaning behind it is where Satara's foundation for her growth begins to take shape. I absolutely loved his words to her about how becoming wise can guide her through the many of the unknowns in life. It instills in her that she can reclaim a sense of navigation no matter where she is, and for somebody who has lost the ability to decide her own route in life, especially as a child, regaining a sense of direction through studying and understanding the world around her is such a wonderful way to emphasize the value of education, albeit with various things to tackle, from making bread to learning astrology, committing to her prayer, and of course learning the Quran, building up to the introduction of Euclid's Elements, written by the Greek mathematician himself and known as one of the most influential books for science and math. From thou shalt seek knowledge to thou shalt preserve, this home holds many legacies while creating new ones as Muhammad sets out on his own to gain more knowledge, as even the wise can become wiser. But he didn't depart without bestowing Satara one of the greatest gifts she could receive. As fate would have it, these two may not ever see each other again, but if there is a chance that Satara could one day be free to choose her own path in life with all that she has obtained in this household, then that's ideally what we'd root for. But unfortunately, a slave's freedom never comes that easy. Going back to the title, this is a story about a girl who navigates with her knowledge as her greatest asset through the era of the Mongolian invasion, a which in the context of older time periods is typically used to describe individuals who are able to pull off the unthinkable, understand the unknown, which is more so ignorance on the opposing party's part, or no more than the strength that commands them. Though Satara has not embodied that title quite yet, episode 2 sets the most heartbreaking stage for that role, and it's a painful chain of events. I think that if there is one thing everyone around the world is struggling to maintain right now, it's stability. So many factors out of your control can show you just how fragile it can be, and there is nothing more upsetting than not being able to control the things around you. 8 years is a lot of time for somebody to get back on their feet, and right when a potential beautiful future is introduced, it's stripped away in mere moments. The Mongols' invasion over Persia is used as the bridge between our reality and Satara's journey. We can read about it all day long, but to what lengths did it affect somebody is something we are witnessing, as with every minute that passed by in episode 2, my heart just became heavier and heavier. I remember being in the premiere and just hearing people choking up. There was a girl next to me bawling her eyes out, and that got me because you guys know how when one baby cries, then the other one does too. That was the atmosphere as Satara lost everything all over again. Fatima struck down in protecting her adopted daughter, Zumurd succumbing to her illness after her brother's death, and Anis deciding how she goes out on her own terms, and even then, it wasn't exactly in freedom. Not even the faintest hope of Muhammad being alive could be found, as the Mongolian conquest raised everything ahead, and all you can think about is how cruel. To take these people away from their homes, to give them a new one that is tolerable, and then take it all away again by a new set of powerful oppressors. And at the end of their life, none of their dreams came true. It's enough to break anyone's will, even if faith was the last battalion. And what hurt the most was seeing Satara willing to let the one choice she finally would be able to make for herself attempted to be her last. I'm sitting there straight-faced, tears rolling down my face, thinking to myself, what could anyone offer her at this point that would keep her on this earth? And by a miracle, it came back to the one item Fatima treasured most. To preserve knowledge and history is to commit to the eternal passing of the torch, and that torch was in Satara's hands now. Except in this very moment, she must go reclaim the Book of Elements. The last piece of Fatima and Muhammad reside in all the knowledge that she had learned, and that is something that the Mongols will never be able to take away. The journey to reclaim it will be an uphill battle, but it's one worth living to see the end of. Somebody at the end of their rope finding a reason to keep going, I know is relatable for so many people, and for a child to have to confront that fate, that is how you deliver a powerful premiere. The minute the episode ended, I knew that this story was going to be the truth this season. I can imagine that every anime director always sets out to answer the question of what do they want to leave with the audience through their work. And personally, I was left with a whirlwind of emotions that made me glad I made it to that premiere. And all I can say is a job well done. The cherry on top is that even with the idea of revenge, I don't exactly expect it to be one of pure violence. No, in this case, the best type of revenge would be to not only retrieve the book, but to live and remember those who instilled her life with meaning. This is a journey of a young girl's indomitable human spirit on her way to reclaim what she has lost once more. And to the team over at Science Saru and the author, I hope they know that the anime community is right behind them on this weekly experience. Trust me, I know I recommend a lot of anime every season, but I cannot emphasize enough that regardless of the size of your watch list, this needs to be a must watch. It's early on, but I trust myself to know when something is on its way to be one of the best in the year. Only this medium could deliver such a kickoff with a presentation so beautiful that has so many different communities talking about it. I couldn't help but be compelled to share my thoughts on it, and hopefully I've managed to sell somebody new on it. And once again, stories like this are exactly why I just can't stop watching. With that, I'd say that's enough out of me. As always, thanks for watching, and please be sure to share your thoughts in the comment section down below. Till then, be good out there, and I'll catch you all in the next one.